Hi, I'm Gudrun from GE Designs and welcome to the part 3 of our Stella Quilt Along. In part 2, we worked on putting our units together, the ones that we cut out. So we sewed the little triangle unit to our bigger units, which is actually in the book, we're talking about step 2 and 3. So now we're moving on to step 4 in the book. So I'm going to show you in the book. We're going to start, the instruction starts on page 80, and that is showing you how to trim the blocks down using the Stripology Squared ruler. If you don't have a squared ruler and want to use regular rulers, there's also instructions how to do that. But I'm going to focus on showing you the Stripology Squared ruler and how easy it is to square blocks with that ruler. So how the ruler works, if you haven't seen it before or used it, is designed to square up blocks any size up to 12.5 inches. The black squares are for squaring up whole inch sizes, and then the white squares are for half-inch sizes. We're going to be using a whole inch size, and anytime I'm squaring up a whole quilt, I actually like to use my ruler stickers to mark that exact square that I'm squaring down to. So I just took my green arrows and planted them on all 4 corners of the square I'm looking for. If you're using the whole inch squares, the black squares, you can find the correct number square by looking at the numbers here on the left side of the ruler. If you're working on half inch, you just find that the white numbers that are going in the middle and going out. So now I have all my 4 corners marked. I also have the exact slits that I'll be cutting through marked as well to eliminate all cutting mistakes. So now we're going to take our units, and we're both going to be trimming our dark units and our light units. I'm going to start with this dark unit, and as you can see, that little triangle is on the bottom, and it's a little bit in from the side here and in from the bottom. That's how it's supposed to be, so don't worry about that. But when I am trimming this one, what I want to try and do is reserve as much of that little triangle as possible. So I'm going to lay that square down, or the block down, and all I'm going to do is take that square that we are using as our measurement, and we're centering that on our block. But I don't want to be fully in the center of this because I want to preserve as much of this as possible. So I'm just placing that bottom corner here as close to the edges of that triangle, still making sure that I get a trim so I can square it up nicely. And that's why I always like to lay my block down first this way with that triangle in the bottom left corner. So now I center it this way, and now all I got to do is make 2 cuts through the 0 and then the 9. And then I'm just going to turn my block, and I like to turn it clockwise so that the triangle is still here on the left side. And now I have a trimmed edge on the bottom and then on the top. So now I can use these black lines to align with that edge easily because those 2 are trimmed. And I've gotten questions about this because the lines are a little bit thick, and people wonder, should I use one edge of the line, top of it, or bottom of it? It does not matter at all as long as you use either, because we're making cuts this way. So whether I line the ruler with the top or the bottom, it really doesn't matter for the cuts we're about to make. So just use either. And I'm just making sure that I get a trim here through that 0. So trim a little bit off that triangle. And I repeat, going through the 0 and 9. And that way I have a perfect squared up block. So you do the same thing with the light squares. And I just wanted to kind of introduce a little idea. If you're getting more comfortable with your rulers, you can actually trim both of these at the same time. Now, I would not recommend this for all patterns because many patterns when we're squaring up, we need to be able to see seams and things like that. But this one is so straightforward that we can actually stack 2 right on top of each other. Just make sure that you kind of stacking these seams right on top of each other. And then you can trim them at the same time. And this, of course, saves you quite a bit of time. If you are comfortable doing that, I would recommend that you start just with 1 and kind of see if you're comfortable, and then move on to doing 2 if you want to dare. Turn it and then repeat. Same thing. What's really great when you're doing multiple like that with the Stripology ruler, you know, the seams here are pretty thick, but what you will notice is that my slits will just kind of give in where that thickness is, and everything else will stay flat and keep my blocks nice and stable. 2 more. And now we have the light ones, both of them trimmed nicely. You can double check that the bottom one got trimmed good, and they are looking great. So now I have my lights and I have my darks, and here's the rest of them that I had trimmed beforehand. So now I have that step finished, or the part 3, which is just the trimming. So we're not going to do anything more for this part. The next and final part will be putting it all together. I know this is just not going to take you that long, it's a short step, but believe me, you want to watch part 4, because I'm going to give you some variations on assembly and especially pressing directions, which are really, really helpful for this quilt to come together so nicely. And that is it. So I will see you next week. Part 4 will be posted on December 21st, Friday. So I'll see you then. Thank you for joining me.